This story was submitted by Harrison. This happened to me about 2 years ago, and I hadn't thought much of it until my girlfriend and I had brought it up tonight. At the time this incident took place, I lived with my godmom. She was 66 and working the night shift in a nursing home, and she was the kind of woman who never believed the bad in people. She helped whenever she could. She worked night shifts and wouldn't get home till 1 in the morning. It was the weekend, so my girlfriend came over for a few days. Nothing unusual happened that night. We stayed in my room and watched movies. It reached 1 a.m. when I heard my godmom come in the house, and I heard a man's voice with her. Just to tell you, it was winter at this time, which is what made her bring this random man in the house. She has a detached garage, and a big yard with many levels going down to the garage at the bottom. My room faced the back, but we didn't hear a sound, so she came in with this man we had never seen before. She told us that she found him hiding in the garage and thought that I had people over, and brought him in because it was freezing outside, but my girlfriend and I have never seen him before. She kept asking him if he knew me, and he kept saying yes, but he was obviously drunk. I told her we didn't know him, and he must have broke in, but she kept asking if he needed help home. He said he didn't know where he lived, so she offered to call the police to pick him up and take him home. As soon as she said that, he became angry, screaming that he didn't want the cops called. I started freaking out and screaming that we needed to get him out of the house, then whispered to my girlfriend to run upstairs and call the police. She did so, then ran back down saying that they were on our front lawn at that second. I looked out my window to see 3 cop cars and police dogs on my lawn and steps. I opened the door, and the second I did, they rushed in and tackled the man, screaming that he was under arrest for a hit and run. Turns out he got drunk and stole a car, drove through a fence near my house, and hit someone. Then he bailed and broke into my garage to hide, and then lied saying he knew me so that he could get into my house. It shook us up a lot, and we're thankful that everyone is alright. But now that we think about it, my girlfriend and I almost decided not to go to my house that night because transit was a nightmare that day, but I convinced her to. I can't imagine what would have happened if we weren't there that night. My godmother would have brought this stranger into her home, all alone. This story was submitted by Benji. I'm a 29-year-old living in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. This happened to me while I was working for Domino's as a pizza driver. My night so far had been very productive, but 5 minutes to close, an order popped up. We were a bit disgruntled by this, but it was common for this to happen. After I packed up the order and headed out, I saw I was heading to a sketchy street. I was used to this. However, not the building that I pulled up to. This place was in serious disrepair. No outside lights, and windows were covered in paper or dark sheets. The few windows not covered were pitch black as well. Being 11 at night, I was uneasy getting out of my car. Luckily, I keep a flashlight in my car to spot addresses much easier. This gave me a little more resolve. I turned off my car, locked it, and made my way into the building, flashlight leading me into this dump. Inside the place was much worse. There was trash everywhere, holes in the walls, and a strong foul odor plagued the hallways. All of this rose red flags, but I could see the unit number ahead on the stairs. A sliver of light inside of it, so I pressed forward. That's when I heard it behind me. A door creaked open. I shined my flashlight behind me and saw a thin, scraggly man step out. I shrugged him off till I heard him following behind me. As I headed up the stairs, I heard another door open and more shuffling footsteps behind me. I turned and saw the man had been joined by a twitchy young woman. Both were very dirty and leering at me. "Can I help you?" I asked, but was met with confused stares. I repeated myself, but only received more silent stares. I started walking faster away from them, but could hear them slowly following. When I reached the unit, I knocked on the door, and a clean-cut guy opened the door and quickly invited me in. This guy's place was much cleaner, and the guy in front of me was clean and well-dressed. "I hate those two. They're always creeping around," the guy said, locking his door. I unpacked the pizza bag and got my payment. Curiously, I asked him about the two in the hall. He explained, "The rent is real cheap because nothing is up to code. Those two are my only neighbors, a couple of addicts. So far they're harmless, but still creepy as fuck." I agreed, and as I exited his unit, we both checked the halls, and both of them were gone, so I rushed out. I felt like I was home free, until I came to my car. The woman had her hands on the hood, and looked like she was feeling for something. When she noticed me, she ran off into the darkness. I didn't even hesitate to hop in my car and peel out of there. I got back and told the closing manager about what had happened. He had heard this before. The guy was a student just making the best of his place, and those junkies followed every driver that ever came through. Let's just say, I refused the order from then on. Despite the reassurance that they were harmless, I just could not handle that for the amount they pay us.
You.
This story was submitted by Sarah. I live in a small town in Missouri with a lot of drug problems. We live in a mixed neighborhood where you have an array of people ranging from nice elderly people to drug addicts. It wasn't this way when we bought our house, and it is still shocking how much it has changed in 2 years. My family falls in the middle. We are just a small family with kids. A couple of nights ago, I heard someone messing around with the back door of my house. Then there was knocking. With me being how I am, I went into panic mode and frantically called my husband's name to let him know there was someone at the back door. In my mind, since he's a military man, if the person at the back door was sketchy, he would be able to take care of it. He answered the door, and he saw a guy who looked strung out on something, and kept asking to come in and use our phone. My husband told him no, and apologized. Then he shut the door, and we didn't hear from him again. We did feel bad after thinking about it. Maybe he just needed some help. But due to his approach to our house, it set us in survival mode. We had no clue what his intent was, and so that made us unwelcoming. I mean, has it ever been okay to go in someone's backyard and knock on their back door? In my mind, it is never okay. I had honestly put it out of my mind, and chalked it up to the guy not being in his right mind. Until today. I went out to take our dog out, and saw multiple cigarette butts in a pile in our backyard. Now I am starting to wonder if he might have been casing the place, or had other plans. Now I am on edge. I know the cops can't really do anything except for trespassing, but we have no clue who the heck this guy was, so that wouldn't even help. I texted my husband about the cigarette butts, and now he is worried too. Needless to say, we no longer feel bad about turning the man away. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. If you would like a chance to have your story featured in an upcoming video, make sure you check out the description on information on how to submit your stories. Now in the first story, thankfully you and your girlfriend had decided to go to your godmother's house. Otherwise, like you said, who knows what would have happened. Obviously he was trying to hide from the police, and he was probably willing to do almost anything to stay hidden. Thankfully, the police were already in your front yard, so all you had to do was open the door, and then the guy was gone. I hope your godmother maybe learned a lesson from this, and doesn't invite strangers in the house anymore. Now for the second story. I can't say that I blame you for denying any orders to that address. I don't think it'd be worth it to go visit there either. By the sounds of it, the junkies are interested in everyone walking by, so all it takes is one time where they come out with a weapon and try to take some money from the delivery drivers, not knowing that most of the time they only carry like $20. But even so, $20 to a drug addict could be a lot. Now for the third story. That would be pretty creepy to have some dude in your backyard knocking on your door, only to have to turn him around because he's using the most lame excuse ever, and then finding out the next day that there's a pile of cigarette butts in your backyard. I think I would have to agree with you that he's obviously casing the place out, or he's stalking someone living there. Whether that be you, or maybe even your husband. Who knows? I would recommend you at least notify the authorities, so that way they have some sort of documentation, as well as get a motion light for your backyard, so if anyone's ever out there, they get blasted with light, and it makes them feel a little more uneasy. I wish you the best of luck in this situation, and hope that you don't have to see him again. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll catch you in the next video. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.